The numbers here are pretty different from the high school, not in a positive way. So almost half of the students here at the middle school experience some mental health challenges, and nearly a quarter of them reported symptoms of depression. So this is showing us that the middle school may need some extra support in terms of mental health services or some guidance and resources for the students. However, this number, the 23% number from the last slide, is down from April 2024, where it was previously 31%, but it has gone down almost 10%, which is great. That is showing that the students who are feeling sad and hopeless is increasing. So I think, we keep providing services and resources to kids, helping them feel connected to their school, their communities, and all things that we can do to help lower this number and get students the resources that they need. Okay, so substance use for middle school. So regarding vaping, these numbers continue to be quite low. Sorry, Erin, are you asking something? No? Okay, sorry. For the middle school for vaping, these numbers, as I was saying, quite low. You can see 25, it was 1.5%. In the prior year, 2024, it was 0.9%. So again, these numbers are very small for the middle school students. And here in this bubble, you can see that only 3 middle school students reported having vaped on school property in the past 30 days. And the same goes for drinking alcohol and cannabis use. These reports are quite low. However, they have increased slightly from prior years. So from 2024 to 2025, we do see a small increase of students who did report drinking or cannabis in the past 30 days. Of students reported that they vaped, that was 15 middle school students. And this is what they reported on how they bought the vaping device. Again, a mix of responses for either telling a friend or got it or borrowed it from someone else. Pretty vague responses, but usually got it from a friend, something of that sort. And then same thing here as the high school, but on a smaller scale, students are reporting wanting to try to fix for relief or anxiety, curiosity, things of that sort. And then here for prescription drug use, this is a very low number as well. 1.9% of students reported having taken a prescription drug that was not known to them in the past 30 days. However, 1.9% is still not 0%, and we would love to see the number be 0 or even closer to it if we could. And then again, here as the high school is the percentage of students who reported talking with a parent or guardian the risks of substance use. So here, vaping, loose drinking, and actually increased drinking is only 48% here versus 61% at the high school. And so, parents may be thinking for the middle school students, for 7 to 8 years, that it's too early to maybe have this conversation. But for prevention, starting early and talking often is a great strategy. So we would encourage these parents to really talk to their students about the risks of this in middle school. If they can, if they need communication tips, the coalition can provide that for them. Okay. Before getting to the coalition update, any question on anything that I
And I have a question. So I noticed for the middle school data, it does not have on the, during the past 12 months, have you and a parent or guardian talked about the risks of? It didn't have ZINs there. For those who don't know, ZINs are these little, I don't know what you call them, patches, packets, whatever, they are filled with nicotine at different levels.
Sean asked at the middle school survey, they didn't ask about the ZIN pouches.
I want to say the ZIN is included in vaping, possibly. I would have to go back and look at the survey detail. I thought it was included, but I'm not able to answer that off the top of my head. So I'll need to double check that. But I thought that they were asked about that.
They were for the high school, but they were not for the middle school. And when you see this going down, and you see the numbers going down from a peak in 2019, it looks good, but then I don't see any data in here about ZINs. From what I'm hearing from students who are willing to talk to me, the ZIN pouches are just littered everywhere. Everyone's zinning, or whatever they call it nowadays. But I mentioned this last year that we missed this in the survey, and I really think we need to add this because we're showing some great results. Yeah, they're not vaping anymore, but they got something new that they're doing, and I'm feeling that we're missing the boat on this.
Did you hear Sean Henry? He said that he sees it in the high school survey, but not.
I actually can't even hear you, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Aaron, I can reach out to Bree tomorrow.
Bree?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Sean's gonna reach out to you tomorrow, I'm thinking of him tomorrow. He was just saying, he sees these ZIN packets in the high school survey, but would like it to be added to the middle school survey.
You sure he said that about the differences in the high school survey, but what is this answer?
Not, he doesn't see it in the middle school survey, but would like to see it added to the middle school survey.
Okay. Yes, added to the middle school survey. Yeah, I thought that it was included, but that is possible that it wasn't. So I'll confirm that, and I can reach out to him as well. And I can provide a copy too of both of the surveys if anyone's interested. You can compare the high school and the middle school. We can look and see what some of the differences are between the two.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the data? All right, if any other questions come up, please let me know. So just a little coalition update here. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I will be able to provide a 2026 HWRSD update in May, early fall. However, as of right now, our federal grants are ending on September 30th of 2026, which is this coming September. We are applying for what is called a no-cost extension, which means whatever funds you've accumulated over the years and carried forward, you can use for sort of an extra bonus year. However, when we were meeting with our grant program officer, they were not positive about the likelihood of that being approved due to the current administration, budget cuts, etc. So, one thing that I really wanted to bring up, if that is the event, is that this HWRSD data is part of the coalition and has been collected for a long time and will not be able to be analyzed and distributed and used for information, for resources, etc. And so that is something that is also at risk of ending with our coalition ending. The other thing is that with our coalition, we are able to scale back if we are able to get other types of funding. However, Jackie, after our coalition coordinator, her position is paramount to the work that is being done. I believe I And you can really see how involved Jackie is with regards to spreading awareness for mental health services, providing prevention education, encouraging students to be leaders and in prevention among their peers. She has really made strides in that in the last 2 years. So like I said, we are applying for this no-cost extension. It's not hopeful. As an alternate option, we are exploring other funds. We are exploring the opioid abatement funds from both Pink and Wilbraham. And I believe the Wilbraham Board of Selection has this on their meeting to discuss on June 24th about how much of the funds they could potentially allot to coalition to use. They only have about $34,000 total, which is much better than nothing, but it's not enough to cover Jackie's position for the year. It would be a great amount of money, but again, they have other programs that they are trying to use that money for as well, so I don't think that we would get all of those funds. I have reached out to some other organizations and some businesses to raise some funding for Jackie's position as well, so just wanted to provide an update on that. And lastly, I really just want to end this presentation by asking the school committee and administration to please consider the importance of Jackie's role in the district. Although her position is part-time, she makes a very positive and lasting impact on the students and families here. And without her position, I truly feel that Kevin and Wilbraham would be at a great service, and to not have this coalition would be a disservice to the families here as well. So, thank you very much for your time, and I don't know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Bree? Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Bree.
you so much.
Thank you, Bree, for the hard work and the nice
All set.
presentation.
People are just thanking you for your hard work. Saying thank you. And thank you for your hard work.
Okay, so we will continue with the bullying prevention and intervention plan update. This is a possible vote on this. John?
Thank you. In your package, you'll find an updated bullying prevention and intervention plan. Something we update every other year, so it's due for its update. The DEI team and I went through this document with another document which isn't included in your packet. The Department of Education has created a checklist for bullying prevention and intervention plans that include all the required elements. So you'll see that there are some changes. In large part, it remains the same. There's one part that has changed substantively. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I think that I'll just briefly go over some of the other changes. So the first change is on the first page, just updating the date that this was revised. On page 2, there is a new statement added to the beginning of the introduction. Consistent with guidance from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the district affords all students the same protections from bullying and retaliation, regardless of their legal status. If you had a chance to check my notes from this afternoon's statewide call with the commissioner, you know, there was a section in there around protections for students who may not have legal status, so that all documents are being updated to ensure that we have protections for students regardless of the legal status referenced, so that's a change there. The next change is just a table of contents. Some things have moved around based on additions, which cause things to shift pages. The next change occurs on page 9. It's just a capitalization change. Principal is no longer capitalized. Then on page 10, there is a change in 2B to use student first language. So the term homeless students is replaced by students experiencing homelessness. And also to make sure that we're inclusive of other protected status students, we added students who are in foster care settings, migrant students, and military-connected students to that group. Then in 2H, we added social media safety as well as internet safety. That is a change that came from some updated regulations. Next changes are on page 11. This is the grid that shows the curriculum being used. One change, Character Strong, is now being used in middle school through high school. So when we had written this last time, it was a high school program. It's now a middle and high school program, so that grade level change there. And then we added a clarification, Kindness Project and Equity Circles are being used at Sewell Road, so we just wanted to clarify that. Then we come to what is probably the most substantive change in this, and this is the part that I think I feel proudest about in our new revision. It's section 6 on page 15, collaboration with families. Basically rewrote that entire section to really give it some meat and talk about specifically how we're collaborating with families and how we're providing students with access, providing families with access to anti-bullying curriculum so that they can support the district's anti-bullying efforts at home. This change requires a sort of corollary change in our district website, so I'm going to have Aaron take us to the district website where you'll see how some of this plays out. So under the so now under the bullying section of our website, just go down this page, we have resources, curriculum resources. So first is second step curriculum for elementary. Families can click on that and see what the standards are, what the curriculum is, and each grade level. Also find out more information about the program. So there you can see the K-5 scope and sequence, learn more about the lessons that are taught on each grade levels. So hope is that this will support families in trying to reinforce lessons at home. Going back to the website, next is Kindness Project. This is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no one can hear you. We can, but no one on that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Going back to the so Kindness Project, this is resources specifically to activities that can be done with kids at home. So these are just ideas that families can do together to support Kindness Project activities that students are doing at home. So this is resources specifically for families to use with their students. So just a wealth of resources. And then next is equity circles. We're not going to watch this whole thing, but just to give you a taste of it. For folks
Introducing Tiny Hall.
if you have to let that play, Aaron. Now you can see. So this is an example of a principal doing equity circles with her students. This is also in elementary school, so it's a good representation of the type of work being done.
Thank you all for allowing me to come in, and thank you for sitting on the floor and joining me for a circle conversation. Do you all know who I am?
Principal.
Yeah, so I'm your new principal, so I'm the new kid here at Hickson.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Grace Lee. I'm the principal of Hickson Middle School, and what we want to...
So folks can take a look at that to see how equity circles work. And then we have information about Character Strong as well for middle and high school families. This also will take you to a video. There's actually a series of videos here where you can get...
Welcome to Character Strong. our mission is to create a more loving world through education. We believe this mission matters now more than ever. Kids around the world report an increase in stress, anxiety, and loneliness, and we want to be a part of the solution to help create a more kind world that would.
So we think that's quite an important part of this work. You know, when we have an incident or a report of bullying in the district, we talk to families. Quite often the conversation turns towards conversations that might be happening in the home and things that families may want to make different choices about where certain conversations are happening or how different conversations are taking place. And so we hope that these resources can help that so that it can support the district's efforts to reduce bullying and harassment in the district. Okay, moving on to page 18. This is in section 9, relationship to other laws, just an updating of list of protected classes. So we're adding sex, socioeconomic status, parenting status, expression, or gender identity or expression, physical appearance, mental, physical, or developmental or sensory disability, or by association with a person who is perceived to have one or more of these characteristics. And then the statement, such people may be more vulnerable to become a target of bullying or harassment, and our own data certainly supports that. As you may recall from the last report on bullying data, our students with disabilities were more likely both to be the aggressors and the targets in bullying. Page 20 was actually left out of the last version of the bullying plan. This is the actual bullying intervention and reporting form. This also was updated on the district website to make sure the link works and to make sure, just to clean up the form a little bit. Page 21 was updated to reference the changes of personnel, including the change of personnel that you just heard about.
There's just on Green Meadows, it's pre-K to 5, not pre-K to 6.
Thank you. We'll make that change. And that's it. So I would submit that to you for your consideration and request approval of our new updated bullying prevention and intervention plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. Bree's information is crossed out from here. Did I miss something?
She just explained that the grant funding her position is coming to an end.
I thought there was a potential extension and such like that.
There is a very small possibility, as she explained.
Okay. I didn't glean that from what you said, but thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll do roll call vote. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Hey, John, is this on the website now?
Yes.
Because I just had a parent reach out to me today about some bullying that happened, and so now I can direct them to the website and follow that process.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we'll continue with the Assistant Superintendent for Finance Operations and Human Resources. Doug.
Good evening. In your packet is a memorandum from me, as I usually prepare each month, walking you through sort of the status of the budget for fiscal 26. There's a couple of things that are a little different in this version of the report. There's the memo and then, of course, the actual sort of numbers that I carry forward. Usually when we have things that are to be determined, as it were, reimbursements for capital or application of certain of our funds like school choice or circuit breaker, we don't usually apply those in the budget until we actually do it. Since this is our last meeting of the fiscal year, I wanted to give you a picture of what the budget's looking like when I start to apply some of those things. I've also put in projections for salaries based on either complete negotiations or the expectations of what we hope to have the case for our negotiations that we're proceeding through. So most of the changes in those, they're highlighted in a dark green on the sheet. Most of those actually make our bottom line a little better. In other words, they reduce costs. So as we apply funding from circuit breaker or we apply reimbursements from the town for capital projects, those expenses essentially come off, and so our overall budget gets better as far as our usage versus our funds. And so what this really tells us, if you look at the very bottom of the second page, is that what we have at the moment, and there's still some things to come in the course of the month that were unanticipated and unencumbered at the moment. But we're in pretty good shape to sort of finish out the fiscal year. We will need to make adjustments accordingly, which is why I have a motion on the sheet for you to grant permission to the superintendent and his designee, which would probably be me, to sort of sort through and make the final adjustments we need to make. Some of that will be the amount of school choice we leverage for the purpose of closing out the year. We had in our budgeting process incorporated more school choice. That was what I proposed to you as the option to help close the gaps in our fiscal 27 budget. One thing I failed to do, however, when we were discussing the results of town meeting, was to give you an indication of the impact on the voted budget amount. The assessments didn't change for the operating and debt, but because when we originally were voting the budget, we had it all sort of held in E&D. That's in a different place. Remember back to when we do our budget, there's offsets and then there are revenues. And revenues are E&D is considered a revenue. Things like school choice are considered an offset. In other words, they're considered on an equal form or an equal footing as the expenses are. So it changes the sort of bottom line of the budget. It's not a terribly, it's more of a technical difference as opposed to a material difference. Assessments to each of the towns are in alignment with what they voted and what you guys aligned with at your last meeting. However, if we need to make readjustment to our budget, or if at a later time we would like to sort of correct that, we can. It's not essential to do at the moment, but in the more immediate for you guys is to give permission to the superintendent to help us close out the books for fiscal 26 as we go through the next few weeks and into July a little bit to kind of put a bow in the year. But I do think the sort of key message is that we're finishing this year kind of the way we do most years, and so we will be just in under our total budget, and so we should have a modest amount of E&D results from that, but I think we're within 1% or 2% of our total budget, and that's where we'd like to be, and that's what is demonstrated on your report tonight. So I'll happy to answer any questions about that.
I make a motion that the school committee authorize the superintendent or his designee to make the transfers necessary to close the district's finances for the fiscal 2026 year.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Okay. We will do roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Myself, aye. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. So we do have a need for public comment. Is there anyone here that's interested in making public comment this evening? Okay. I invite you to the table. You can sit right in front of the microphone. There's a button that you can press.
The button's right here, if you look.
He's not sitting down yet, which is why I was waiting for him to
There you
arrive.
go.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you could just please state your name and your affiliation with the district. Thank you.
My name's Al Levinson. I live in Wilbraham. I'm just an old fart. Recently, in both the Reminder and the Wilbraham Hamden Times, there was a letter to the editor from the Wilbraham Hamden Education Association begging for yet another Proposition 2.5 override. I'm not a person who opposes tax increases just because it's a tax increase. However, this is the same school committee that immediately after giving us not one, not two, but 3 override votes, wouldn't even initially close Thornton Burgess to save money. It was his middle finger to the taxpayer that made me determine that I would not support any tax increase from the school committee under any circumstances whatsoever. And when two of these overrides failed, they still managed to repair the roof at Wilbraham Middle School and address the issues of Sewell Road. It is my opinion they didn't even try to find alternate sources of funding before sticking it to the taxpayer. I seriously have to question the justification for any tax increase. Since 2008, my taxes have increased 68%. During the same 18-year period, Superintendent Provost said the student enrollment has dropped over 21%. If you need another tax increase when our taxes have steeply increased and student enrollment has seriously declined, then I feel there is something seriously wrong with the management of our schools. We need to send a strong message to this school committee that we will no longer tolerate this blatant disregard towards their responsibilities to the taxpayers and the blatant disregard toward the meeting of the word budget. They also need to learn that we are not a personal ATM to be used whenever they please. So, now that I've worked you a new one, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing, I ask you this and I appreciate an answer. Are you planning to try to raise our taxes again?
So typically during public comment, we don't respond, but just in broad terms, our budget process is over. Our budget has already been voted for the year.
So is there going to be a tax increase again?
Is there Wilbraham? Okay.
I mean, so a normal tax increase, but not 2.5 override. We haven't done a 2.5 override in over 10 years. So we haven't done a 2.5 override in over 10 years. I've been on the committee for 10 years. We've never had a 2.5 override. So I don't know, you said 3 times, maybe it was before, longer than 10 years ago?
One was in the building of the school, and then 2 of them at the same time.
I don't think that was a 2.5 override, I think that was a debt exclusion. It's a different, yeah.
Well,
But that was before I came on, that was, what, how many years ago, 15, 16 years ago? Yeah.
So I want to emphasize, I agree with Michelle that the budget process is closed this year. The tax increases, if there are increases, are decided by the mutual towns, not by the school committee. The school's budget is one part of a very large part of each of the town's budget, to be fair, more than 50%. There are increases to the school budget every year from inflation. Services have been cut every year, I believe, for the last 10 years, to do a judicious response to minimize increases to the budget. And I guess I would encourage you to attend town meeting in the spring when it happens, because that's when, in public town meeting, the town decides and votes on the budget, which ultimately results in what taxes may or may not be levied. But Wilbraham is well below their levy limit by about $1 million right now. In other words, that Wilbraham has no need of a 2.5 override, and in fact they have $1 million buffer without needing a 2.5 right now. I also served on Wilbraham FinCom, so that's why I'm kind of expanding a little bit more, because I think I have a bit of a handle on this.
Does that help at all? I know it doesn't make you feel better, but.
no.
Okay.
Well, I shall definitely be back in the spring with basically the same speech.
Okay. Well, thank you for speaking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, so we will continue the subcommittee updates. The curriculum subcommittee, Lisa?
Nothing to report.
Planning committee, nothing to report this time. Finance, operations, and technology subcommittee, Mike?
We have not had a meeting, and so I have nothing to report.
LPDEC collaborative representative, Lisa?
Nothing to report.
Negotiation subcommittee, nothing to report at this time. Policy subcommittee, Mike.
Yes, okay, so first, this is going to be the third reading for AI guidelines that we've all heard before. Looking for a possible motion to accept or approve.
Move to approve the AI guidelines.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Yeah, sure, yeah, questions and discussion.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was on the policy subcommittee on AI, and there's a lot of reading on AI research that's been done over the last few years, from a lot of leading education institutions, educational experts, and although I would support, obviously, what came out of the committee, I think we need to reopen it up for a lot more discussion over a lot of the research that's coming out now about AI. There's a lot of things that are not good. There's a lot of good, but a lot of things that are not good. And one thing that besides equity, besides human, contact being lost, besides even coming up, helping really affect kids' learning in terms of coming up with ideas and papers. But one other thing is, it was interesting that a Stanford graduate student recently wrote an op-ed in the New York Times. He just graduated, 4 years undergraduate. And he said he's had AI for all 4 years, and with him and his colleagues, Stanford always had an honor system. You do your work, you do your research, you do your papers, you turn them in. And he said the way it became over the last 4 years, anybody that actually did research, that actually spent time doing any work was considered a fool because they had to do it all for you. And even though they resisted, Stanford this last April went to all assessments being closely proctored blue book exams. And they got rid of anything else. That's blue book exams with no electronics. And that's what they're doing right now today as we speak because of the use of AI. I've spoken to students in our district, other districts, and other colleges, that all tell me the same thing. That you're a fool if you don't let AI do the work for you. You just make a few changes, nobody ever catches them, and they turn into work. So I'd like to open it up to having, sharing some of these reports and papers. So I don't have any answers, but sharing reports and papers with the policy subcommittee or with the committee as a whole, and having a discussion on it. Because I think it really is getting more and more pervasive in our system, and I think we need to go back and really look at it a little bit deeper.
I would just like to respond to that. I agree that this is a quickly evolving area, and I don't think that it's ever going to really be completely, that we're ever going to have our arms completely around it. Part of the reason why I propose these as guidelines rather than a policy is so that there could be some nimbleness around this and we could make changes on the fly. I also think that it's going to be something that's probably going to become cross-committee or cross-subcommittee. If you looked at the notes I sent from the call this afternoon, one of the new competencies that students are going to have to demonstrate, this is something I'm trying to still get my mind around. This only hit me a couple of hours ago, is competencies in AI in order to get a high school diploma. So I think there's going to be a curriculum component to this as well.
I definitely think this should be on a future agenda item. I also think we might need a AI subcommittee. I know the technology has been rolled into one, but I'm telling you, John, you brought up a good point. The people who invented AI send their children to schools that don't have AI, but yet every other school has AI, every other business has AI. I wrote out your evaluation, and then I sent it to AI to see what they thought of my grammar, what they thought of my wording, and they made some changes, or it made some changes. So it is something that now that we're saying that there has to be some way for a student to show that they are utilizing AI. Again, I don't want this to be like the calculator. Everyone's afraid of it. Now everyone has one on their phone, on their watch, I think that it's something that we need to lead and steer rather than than trying to avoid it and then being told what to do afterwards. I think this is a pivotal point right now. I think we've missed it. AI is so fast, but and like Rich says, there's so many negative things about AI, but we do need to find a way to get that education to our students and to our districts and to our teachers.
So I'd just like to comment kind of as an overview of the guideline that we're talking about. It serves as a template because there will be some assignments where students are asked to use AI to learn how to use it as a tool, because it's likelihood in their future jobs they'll need to use AI as a tool. But there are some things that need to be in place to protect students and their privacy, and those are the kinds of things that's in the guideline. There are only certain AI providers that have signed student privacy agreements. Some of the popular ones that we are more familiar with are not in that list, and so those won't be available to the students in the school. So that's the kind of thing in the guideline. I completely agree that it's a rapidly changing field, but for better or for worse, I think that in the future job marketplace, students are going to need to know how to use AI as a tool, but not as a replacement for work. I love what is going on at Stanford, where they got back to the blue books, even though when I was in college I hated the blue books. I love hearing that they've gone back to the blue books, because at the end of the day, an exam is an exam, right? And so if pen and paper can't do it, then obviously it's not in your head, it's somewhere else, and that's not acceptable for an exam. So, but I think that the guideline is important because to make sure that only the proper AIs are used when the students are using the assignments to protect the students.
Yeah, I support the guidelines, as I said. I'm just saying, open it up, have an AI committee, subcommittee, attack this next year, next fall, but I just wanted to point out that it's not the be-all, end-all. I agree with John saying it's a guideline, and changes need to be made, it's rapidly evolving. So that's my point. I'd just love to share some of the articles with everybody in the committee or the whole thing, discuss some of the studies that have been done.
John, is there currently an AI subcommittee of educators? I don't think the school committee is anywhere with this, but.
There is not. There is a grant that Georgina talked about at the last, or a really recent meeting, that is working on media literacy, which I think is going to be heavily looking at the influence of AI on media and deepfakes and that angle. So there's a core there.
That's talking more about policy. In other words, what we allow, and just as I said, how many blue book tests should we have? How should we really evaluate kids? How many takers should we just take that probably all been done mostly by AI, even in the formulating of the subject? So I think that's policy in terms of where we should put restrictions on AI in the future and how much we should use it, both for good and for bad. Pretend the bad, use the good.
Don't you think, Rich, it would be good for a committee of educators in the district to work on and put forward policies that they think need to be reviewed by the policy subcommittee, as opposed to the policy committee, I don't know how to say it, going withdrawal on it?
Technology subcommittee, this is technology. I think it's something that we can look at the 50,000-foot view of it, and make sure that we give the district the guidelines and the support it needs to do whatever John and his team decide how they want to interact AI into the education of our students.
Does anyone want to add anything new?
I think we ought to have a concern on this, that AI doesn't do what the calculator did. Kids today in mathematics don't know how to add, don't know how to subtract, don't know how to multiply, because they never learned the enumeration facts. Knowing those facts gives them something concrete that when you get into complex mathematical theories, you have something solid to measure it against, and it makes things understandable. And I think the way we allow calculators in our classrooms weaken kids' abilities in a lot of different ways. I mean, if you go into a grocery store and the power is out, how many of those, not just kids, people, can't do the simple make change? I mean, I don't want this to be a crutch that weakens people's ability to think on their own.
I don't necessarily think it's explicit in the guidelines, but the guidelines are based on the DESE training. And I think one of the things that sticks out in my mind from that training, I think it supports what you're talking about, but even more so, is that the most dangerous time to use an AI is when you're not already an expert in the area, because then you can't evaluate the answers it's giving you. One of the part of the human-centered piece of this guideline is you're safest using AI when you have a good understanding of the information that it's spitting out and have the ability to screen it to know what is likely to be a hallucination and what is factual. If you are in a situation where you're asking it questions, where you're in a sort of neophyte stance, you can't tell whether or not it's lying to you, and then you're very much at risk. And I think that's what we really need to teach kids about in terms of the dangers you're talking about. I mean, your calculator could give you an incorrect answer, but your calculator couldn't make up a whole new history for you. But AI can.
Also, calculator give you an answer. I think I did mention something that when I used to, as a chemistry teacher, calculus first came up. I used to say to kids, go and weigh something 3 times, I'll weigh about a gram, and they would, what's the average? They would say this is 1.01 gram, 1.02, 1.03. They come back and tell me the average is like 2 1/3. And I would say, how can it be 2 1/3? They all weigh what? Well, the calculator says it's 2 1/3. Because they went 1 plus 1 plus 1 divided by 3, which is 1 plus 1 plus a third, as opposed to using parentheses. And they didn't question it. They just said the calculator's right. I must be wrong. And they went with the calculator. It worked all the time. We did so many cases. And this is where, in Tim's analogy, they have to have that in their brains, what the average really means and what it really is. You just monitor it from now to historic relative versus Boston Scientific, just executive there. She had one of her employees do a presentation to the CEO of this $1 billion company in Massachusetts, medical devices, and they did a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint had errors in it, and basic errors, whatever what she was showing, and she said AI did it, and this person put it together, worked in a high-level $1 billion company, did not know enough about what she was talking about. She just had AI do it and presented it to the CEO. Employee was going to go back on that. So just some examples of trusting it, just like we trusted the kids trusted the calculator in the chemistry class many years ago, and trusting it to do a PowerPoint for you, and trusting it to get the numbers right. You have to make sure the kids or the people using it, as John said, know what it's supposed to be, understand the concept of what you're doing, so they can question.
We keep equating AI to a calculator, and I agree with you, Rich. Unfortunately, I think AI is worse than a calculator. Because at the end of the day, a calculator actually will always say 2 plus 2 is 4. And AI, the more times you ask it, you might get 4.2, 5.1. So in some ways, AI, while it may have a much broader scope than a calculator, can be much, I think, more dangerous and scary. And so I agree with everyone's sentiments on this. But I would like to have the guideline approved because it'll define what AI students can work with and they're asked to do as well. Something.
So we are going to do roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Second term. Thank you. And then there's also, Mike, did you want to do the second readings?
Aye. Second readings of the following policies. And Bill, you're new. The full policies are in the packet that you can go through. I'm just going to read the titles for now. ECAB, access to buildings and grounds. EEA, bus driver examination and training. DN, fiscal management, disposition of surplus items. JFBB, school choice. KBG, parent advisory councils, PACs. JKAA, physical restraint of students, timeout, seclusion, and physical restraint of students. JLCD, administration of medications. JLCDC, self-administration and self-carry of medications. And then now we have an MOU policy, and this is ready to be voted on, right? We got feedback from the police and so forth, John?
Well, we, at that meeting, worked out language that we were going to insert in, so that is implemented.
They're all good, okay. So regarding remote access to security cameras, so this is a a use agreement, and Bill, to recap mostly for you, I think everyone else in the committee knows. So the security cameras on the campuses, particularly here at Minnechaug, were recently upgraded. They now have a quite high level of sophistication. While they are not currently hooked up, there is an area in town where the police camera lines go close to the school camera lines, and so there's an opportunity where they can be hooked up. However, before that can happen, before the police could have the ability to flip a switch and look at a monitor on the school, there needs to be an agreement in place as to how, when it's appropriate for them to do so and when it's not. And we kind of went back and forth with meetings and negotiations, and we kind of have an agreement that everyone's agreed upon. So this is for possible for someone to make a motion to accept on behalf of the school committee. But I will point out the actual physical connection that will allow this usefulness probably won't happen until late in the fall at the earliest, because it is kind of a capital project that Wilbraham will be taking. No worries.
So do we need a motion or?
Yes, motion to accept the MOU?
Second?
Okay. I didn't want to make a motion myself. Okay.
Next, questions or discussion? Okay, roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. So we'll move on to the LPVAC Corporation representative, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's only the second reading, but I'm not gonna let this go by. The physical restraint, we did a motion on that at our last meeting.
Yes, the MASC resolution. The committee voted to submit.
Yes, to take a thorough look at this, and by thorough, I mean, they need to talk to the practitioners who are actually working with these students. Because I don't think this is going to cause more problems than it solves. I don't know how something like this gets implemented, and I don't want to let this appear on our agenda without saying that and emphasizing that to the public. Thank you.
To build off of that, I did reach out to Glenn Kuchar to make sure that he got the proposal, and he said he sent something back to Aaron. He said he also said something back to me, but he had an email address that I don't have, so he mailed it to me. As the chair, are you knowledgeable of this? Aaron, did you get something from Glenn?
I'll have to check it. I don't remember, Sean. I thought it was just a confirmation email saying you received it.
No, it was about the time and date for the meeting for us to talk about it and all the other resolutions that are coming up to vote on all those.
Did you receive something?
I asked him to send me. I have it. I can
could you
get a
forward
copy to you. Sure.
Thank you.
I just didn't. It said that Aaron got it. It was a copy of an email, so I just assumed that maybe she passed it on to you. But I will make sure I get it to you as well.
Is there another ton of resolutions this year?
From what I saw, there was under 10, maybe more like 6 or 8.
That we'll get more attention to.
But not.
Because there could
but that's
sometimes be
only
like
one.
20 resolutions.
Yeah. So I know I'm the rep for when we have the resolutions. I'll probably be able to attend the meeting, but I'll share this with everyone, and we can just make sure that somebody's there.
Is it the last day of the conference? Is it usually the last day of?
No, it's sometime, I believe, this month. I would look it up, but he sent it to me, hard copy, and it's on my desk.
Wait,
neglected
aren't the
to bring it tonight.
resolutions discussed and voted on at the MASC meeting?
No, the way it works, when districts, when they submit resolutions, what they do is they bring the people that wrote the resolutions, and then they do a roundtable and review the language and kind of ask questions and maybe reword them, things like that. They work through that before they actually make it to what we see at the conference and what they vote on.
You can send a resolution in. If the resolution is adopted to be voted on, then it'll go and be voted on either the first day or the last day of the conference, depending on what they do each year.
Okay, thank you. So Mike, do you have anything on the corporation for LVBEC?
No.
Okay. So we'll continue with the superintendent evaluation subcommittee. So we met on Tuesday to review all of the evaluations that were received. So in your packet, you'll see two things. You'll see just a copy of the summary. So this was with the assistance of AI. So it was nice and easy, able to take everyone's evaluation. It was able to then produce a summary of all the findings. So you'll see also that first piece of paper, it does say all 5 committee members. It was 7 members, but when I did put this through, I only had 5 in paper, but we did have the information from the other 2 that were not there. So this is the committee summary for the superintendent evaluation. But what I'll do is I will go through, I don't know if you want us to go through this portion or just the summary.
Whatever you want. It's up to you.
Okay, so we'll just do the summary. You'll be able to see this, the summary, and then you'll be able to see, you'll have access to each member's individual evaluation. You can, on your own time. Okay, so this summary does reflect the independent evaluations of all committee members compiled under the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Superintendent Evaluation Framework. So the overall rating was proficient. So for standard 1 instructional leadership, the composite rating was proficient. For standard 2 management and operations, the composite rating was proficient. For standard 3 family and community engagement, the composite rating was proficient. And the overall rating for standard 4 was professional culture, which the composite rating was proficient. So under the
Michelle, are you
Yeah,
reading the
Michelle.
summary one? Because I think the summary we have exemplary for standard 2.
Yeah, it does. It says exemplary here for standard number 2, management and operations.
Oh, my mistake,
And
sorry.
then on the, I guess you got ghosted on AI.
Yeah,
It happens.
I filled them out separately, so I didn't, so yes, my mistake. So that's why I was gonna read the one that I actually filled out versus the summary. So my mistake. So your standard 2 was exemplary, standard 3 was proficient, and that's actually what exists on this one, which the summary is under the, you'll see. My mistake, thank you for the correction. So under the DESI framework, proficient is the rigorous, fully satisfactory standard of strong performance expected of an effective superintendent. Exemplary is reserved for practice that could serve as a model for districts across the state. Okay, so for the goals, the committee found the superintendent met or made significant progress on all goals: student learning, professional practice, district improvement, and with the innovation career pathways goals cited as particular success. So what the committee was impressed by Dr. Prova's ability to bring people together and build an effective team, uniting staff, families, students, the community, and the school committee around shared goals while working efficiently and clearly enjoying the work. Members pointed especially to his steady leadership through a challenging year of budget pressures and contract negotiations, where he kept the district focused and shielded students from much of the disruption. His leadership produced measurable results. Chronic absenteeism fell to well below the state average. Middle school math proficiency rose sharply on grade 6 from 24% to 51%, and grade 7 from 37% to 48%. And the operational changes like the new 3-tier bus tiered bus schedule cut delays by roughly 65%. Members also recognized his commitment to equity, including the district's vision of equity, the new equity walk practice, and the launch of innovation career pathways, and his willingness to take on hard situations directly. They pointed to his handling of the Wilbraham Middle School mold issue, where he kept families informed and delayed the school opening to protect health and safety, and to his progress moving a years-long facilities question toward consensus. Looking ahead, the committee encouraged continued focus on proactive, transparent communication, helping families and staff understand not just what decisions were made, but why, and on strengthening the connection between the district's vision and the day-to-day experience of staff. Members also want to see the district's strong systems translate into even stronger outcomes for every student group and promising initiatives carried through to lasting impact. So the committee views Dr. Kovas as a strong, dependable, and trusted leader who guided the district steadily through an exceptionally challenging year and looks forward to building on that foundation in the year ahead.
I just want to thank the committee for those comments. The one that resonates with me is that he enjoys the work. Going back to my comments from the retiree, I do. Someday I'll miss it. But that's not a day that's coming anytime soon. But I really do enjoy, and it is such a privilege to be able to be your superintendent. I feel so blessed every day that I get to do this, so thank you.
Any additional comments from the committee? No? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for putting your, for organizing everything so easily, and all of your artifacts. I know that took a lot of time, organization, and effort, so we appreciate that as well. All right, so we will continue with the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Okay, roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Myself? Yes. Motion carries 7-0. And then we'll continue with the superintendent's update.
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin with world language expansion feasibility. This is strategic plan objective 1CP. And we can go to the next slide. So the question in the strategic plan was to investigate the feasibility of expanding the current world language program. I think you could take a look at the newspaper headlines and just reach the conclusion that it's not feasible. These are some headlines from this past year. You've all lived this. I don't mean to trigger any post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's been a hard year. But there are obviously more slides in this deck, so I'm not just leaving it at that. But we are very significantly resource constrained. It's not feasible to do anything on a large scale basis. So you can talk about what we can do to move on. Because I understand the authors of the strategic plan hope something could be done to expand our world language program. So I began asking if we can initiate large program expansion at a time when we're resource constrained and cutting staff, what kind of small scale changes could we make to help students go further in their language studies? And the approach that I landed on was building academic intensity within our existing world language program. This is a term that I came across. It was actually an added benefit to our designation of having an innovation career pathway. Through the connections that we made through that program, we were invited to work with a DESE vendor named Better Lesson. DESE actually paid for the Better Lesson to work with the district. They analyzed the transcripts of all the students in the class of 2024 with a view to what they call academic intensity. Better Lesson argues that after a certain point, academic intensity is more meaningful than GPA. And the exact point is 3.33. If your GPA is below 3.33, Getting it up to 3.33 is the most important thing. But if your GPA is over 3.33, ensuring that you're taking coursework with high academic intensity becomes more important. Looking just at the quote on this slide, this is from some old research which they really dug in on. High school curriculum a student takes matters more than test performance, GPA, or class rank as a predictor of future success. And this is kind of interesting. It's really had me thinking because, you know, we do so much work in pre-K to 8 to make sure that everyone is taking aligned curriculum and has access to the same core curriculum. In high school, there's still a core required courses, but beyond that core, students really have a chance to design their own curriculum. And based on the choices they make, they end up either having an experience that is more intense or less intense. And the intensity of their curriculum actually has been shown to make a really impactful difference in their life experiences after graduating high school. So there are different measures of academic intensity. One is persistence. That often means going beyond the minimum number of courses required for graduation in a specific subject to gain a deeper understanding of that subject. Another measure is advanced coursework, so taking honors, AP, IB, or dual enrollment courses rather than CP classes would be considered more intense. For some subjects, intensity means completing a specific progression of courses. For science, students who take biochemistry and physics are showing academic intensity as compared to students who only take a portion of those classes and don't finish the sequence. Moving on there. So our students' transcripts were scored on a 25-point scale where they could earn up to 5 points for the courses they took in English, math, science, social studies, and world language for an overall score of 25. Next slide. Scores 10 and above were considered academically intense. Scores 15 and above were considered highly academically intense. Next slide. This is how things broke out for our various student subgroups. The vendor told us repeatedly that our students' academic profiles were very good and that our challenge was to make them good to great. For any of you know the Jim Collins book, Good to Great, he kept saying, this is a good to great situation for you. He said that there are lots of districts where they display this chart and it's mostly yellow. For us, as you can see, the blues are the predominant colors, meaning that most of our students are taking academically intense or highly academically intense programs. The question is, how can we shift some of those students who are approaching intensity into academically intense schedules? Next slide. Now you can also look at academic intensity within any of the 5 disciplines. And what we found when we looked at world language was that 25% of students are approaching intensity. That's actually the modal group for us. For the most part, these are students who took CP French 1 and 2 or CP French Spanish 1 and 2, and that was it. Taking a third level schedule. So the question is, how do we shift some of this 25% upwards? Next slide. This is something that could be feasible because these courses already exist. They're already running. They don't necessarily require any additional courses to intensify the students' experiences. They just need students to choose different courses. So moving on, there are a few different paths you can imagine to get to this. There's sort of 3 methods that you can look at when you examine the transcripts. One is the honors upgrade. If students took an honors instead of a CP level class, they could take the same number. You could take just 2 courses that would still be considered academically intense. Another path is to get students to a 3rd level of a subject. This one, that's the 8th grade pipeline. This, when we looked at our transcripts, actually turned out to be the most reliable path to get students to academic intensity in world language. These were students who came in and were immediately put in Spanish 2 based on their experiences in 8th grade Spanish. A lot of them took Spanish 2 and Spanish 3 as their 2 high school classes. That's considered academically intense because they got to the 3rd level. It's no more courses out of their high school schedule, but they got to a further destination. And then a third option is to encourage students who are successful in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 or French 1 and French 2 to take the 3rd course. Moving on. Another thing we found when we looked at the data of student course taking is you could see what some of the barriers were. You could start to predict from freshman and sophomore which students were going to have difficulty fitting in a 3rd class. And those were students who wanted to go really deep in other subjects. So you had students who were on a very strong math track, on a very strong science track. It might be hard for them to get another language course in there. So for them, taking an honors class would be a better solution than taking a 3rd class, because that takes one of their blocks away that they want to put into something else. Another thing that came out is that probably the biggest barriers we saw were students who enrolled in CTEC or receiving academic support. Those take up a lot of blocks of students' time, becomes a real barrier. I think for students who are in that, we predict are going to be in that pathway. The only real path is for them to finish Spanish 1 in 8th grade and come into Spanish 2. I think anytime a student starts talking about CTEC, we need to really focus on their 8th grade Spanish class, because it may be a while before they have another open block in their schedule where they're able to take another Spanish class. And one of the things we learned on today's call is that all students are going to have to complete Mass Core in order to be able to graduate. Right now, our CTEC students are not completing Mass Core. Right now, a lot of our students taking academic support are not receiving Mass Core. So I think that 8th grade class becomes especially important for them. Third data insight we found was the students who took a 3rd language class were kids who tended to have more balanced schedules. I think that just kind of is like the mirror to the first insight, which is if you're taking a lot of, if you go deep into 2 different subjects, you're not going to be able to go deep into the language as well. We found you could take a lot of math or a lot of music, let's say, and also take a 3rd language, a 3rd course of language, but you couldn't take a lot of math and a lot of music and get a 3rd language in. So again, kids like that, maybe honors is a better option. So you heard me say honors, honors, honors. This is an option for a lot of kids. Then the question became, well, why aren't kids taking more honors? You know, some of these kids who are taking every math class we have to offer are taking CP. And so I'm saying, you know, I'm thinking these kids like to challenge themselves. Why aren't they doing it in language? The hypothesis was because they come to the language discussion so late in their academic career. You know, the minute they walk through the doors and start pre-K or kindergarten, they understand they're going to have to work with letters, they're going to have to work with numbers, that's going to be a part of their experience. But for a lot of them, they don't encounter language study until they get to the middle school. And so our hypothesis, I don't know if it's true or not, but is they may be less willing to push themselves in language because they may feel less confidence in that. So our question was, is there a way we can get language to them, at least in some way at an earlier level, so that they might come with better confidence, either to go farther in 8th grade so that we could start them in level 2 as high school students, or so that they'd be more likely to take honors classes. And we did come up with an idea. Go to the last slide. When talking to Teresa, I said, Well, maybe you have a way that you could help some of our elementary principals, which are facing another problem. What you have here is their benchmark scores for the current 3rd and 4th grade, which is going to be next year's 4th and 5th grade. And if you look at this, you can see that nearly a quarter of the 5th grade is showing us they may be ready for enrichment. And in 4th grade, we have just as many students who need enrichment as we need intervention. If you looked at the 2nd grade, you'd see we have more of a need for enrichment than we see need for intervention. We've had so much work on pushing intervention. We're kind of looking around for things we can do for enrichment. So Teresa said, I have some students. I have students in, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, seniors who could do as work-based learning, your enrichment classes for those 4th and 5th graders in their WIN block that are ready to have a language experience. That would be providing enrichment for them, would be giving those students a good start in language, maybe having them come to the middle school with better skills. It would be giving the high school students work-based learning, which we also learned is going to be a graduation requirement. And I think it is a feasible way to expand world language. I think it's something that, if you play this out, may bear fruit in 6 years, because you have to have those students work their way all the way up to the high school. But I think it's probably the most feasible thing we can do, and it's something that I would like to do next year. I think it's probably the most realistic thing we can do to meet that goal of the strategic plan, given our resource constraints. So
Excellent plan.
I really like this presentation, John. I think the two things that fuel the long-range strategic plans request for world language. One was, I think the community wants to see foreign language introduced in younger grades. They kind of know that that's a good thing. Of course, the other is, at the time they met the long-range strategic plan, Latin had very recently been killed in literature. And with it, I think classic history as well, because it was so much. So this is hitting one of, I think, the two things that the community was going after. So I really like that. When we do budget negotiations, the towns always like to say, well, tell us something new. Tell us something you want to do, right? We always chuckle because we're like, well, they're not even going to give us the bare minimum that we need to get by. But we're going to tell them that we want to do something else. So reintroduction of Latin in Minnechaug could be a proposal for the next budget year. Like we could say, okay, here's our level service budget. And then I've been talking to you about, we're going to have to start presenting pluses, right? Because it's like, there's some cuts that you're probably going to discover are unmanageable, or maybe not, probably, right? And so, so there might be some of those, and then, we think the community is interested in bringing back Latin or classics or a different language. I feel strong, I'd like to see I would love to see another language offered in high school, but I'm not a high school educator, so I wouldn't presume to make the decision as to which other language is most appropriate. Latin, Chinese, Japanese, I don't know what would be the next most appropriate, but we can give them, okay, for, another $250,000, we can bring back foreign language, or whatever, a third foreign language. I wouldn't break the back over it, I wouldn't put too much time into it, because it'll probably be shut down with very arrows and stuff in budget negotiations, but at least we would be able to say, here, we're coming, community asked for this, and we're doing part of it, but we can't do the other part without the community getting re-engaged, right? Anyway, that's my thought, but this is really creative.
Any other comments? Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
So the next part of my presentation is the Year 4 strategic plan status update. So just pointing out a couple of things on page 1. Item number 8, that was actually something that was delayed until this year because the MERP wasn't actually due till this year. So that's now completed. On page 4, item 19, establishing a timeline for planning committee for initial and annual review of regional agreement. That's been updated to ongoing. It probably should have been made ongoing a long time ago. On page 6, the add bios and pictures of school committee members and central office staff and admin to the district website. That's been completed. And then year 4, which is the year that was just completed, begins on page 7. So the first item is analyze and evaluate the current world language opportunities and the feasibility of expansion through elementary level. That's done. The second one is for teachers to participate in professional learning opportunities focused on instructional practice that motivate and engage all students. You had a presentation from Lisa and Josh on that. That's ongoing because, you know, although we've done a lot of work on that, that's going to be an ongoing need. We won't be able to do as much with that this upcoming year, given a fewer number of professional development days, but we'll do the best we can. Third was updating wellness policy and communicating expectations. That was brought to the school committee earlier this year. Fourth was roundtable district-wide discussion regarding calibration of interventions and consequences. That was the presentation that Principals DeRoja and Hale did for you. 5 was to work collaboratively to create a guide of tiered interventions for all grade levels to support academic and social emotional learning. This has actually been done and revised twice, so that's complete, although we'll continue to make updates to it. 6 is to broaden the base of families on the academic and social emotional benefits of inclusion. That is ongoing. I think that's work we still need to do. We certainly have had a lot of presentations on that, but I think we need to continue to work on that. 7 is to establish a two-way means of communication for stakeholders. We talked about that earlier in the year with the addition of our new texting component to our communication plan. 8 was to establish a protocol and system for various tools to communicate teaching, learning, and achievement. There was a presentation on that. 9 was to develop a schedule for reviewing regional agreement periodically with community members. That's ongoing. I will share that the 2 towns have indicated to me that they'd like to have this before the voters in the fall, so that is kind of the schedule at this point. There's a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday with Wilbraham and Hampton staff to work on the interim plan for the middle school. That would be sort of like in that framework of agreement, which hasn't actually been hammered out yet, but it's been at least conceptually put together. What the cost would be for maintaining the school while it goes through the process, hopefully of getting into the core program and hopefully getting funding for either renovation, expansion, or rebuilding. So that continues to move along. 10 was to establish and update our hiring and recruitment practices. That's been done. I've shared with you what that looks like. That actually was included in the packet, I think that you just had for my evaluation. 11 was to survey community members and gather feedback on the regional agreement. That actually was done early in the process, in maybe year 1 or 2. And then we had also an item that's actually for next year, but is already completed, which is to analyze and evaluate the current VOC-Tech opportunities and determine growth feasibility. So we will start year 5 tomorrow, and we will also start the work of developing a new strategic plan over the course of this year so that when our current strategic plan expires next June, we will have the successor plan ready to go. That's my report. Oh, I need to do enrollment. Enrollment for June 1st was 2,821 students.
Thank you. Any questions for John? All right, before we continue, we do have to circle back to the superintendent evaluation. So we do have to take a vote on whether or not we want to adopt that as our official evaluation for superintendent.
I make a motion to adopt the summary as the evaluation for the superintendent, John Burrows, for the year ending 2026.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Myself? Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, so we have 2 future agenda items for the next agenda, for future car routes at all schools, and then the subcommittee discussion. Our next meeting is Thursday, July 30th. That will be our reorganization meeting.
Did we want to add AI discussion to the
Yes.
future agenda?
Mhm.
Thank you.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we do have the need for executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law, specifically Mass General Law, Chapter 214, Section 1B, Massachusetts Student Records Law, Massachusetts Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 34D, Massachusetts Student Records Regulation 603 CMR 23 et sequentia, and Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, 20 U.S.C. Section 1232G and 34 CFR Part 99, regarding student transfer requests. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, see Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to the collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. HWEA Units A and C contracts, teacher coverage by para MRSA, grade assignment reconciliation Bischoff, MIAA demand letter response, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and/or to conduct negotiations with non-union personnel compensation.
So. Second.
Okay, so we will not be returning to regular session. We will be adjourning from from executive session. So we will take roll call to move into executive session. Cheryl. Tim.
Yes.
Sean.
Before we go into executive session, I know we just gave you a plaque and everything, but we're going to make sure. Aye.
Lisa.
Yes.
Rich.
Yes.
Mike.
Yep.
And myself. I will now move to executive session, 7:53 p.m.
All right, Rich, I'll call you right back when we start up.